You know, Mortal Kombat 1 has really felt all over the place when it comes to Combat Pack 3. At the end of last year, it was pretty much being reported that the game support would end after the T1000 released, and this was simply because data went missing, and then after Conan released, data miners were able to find new data, which seems as if we are getting Combat Pack 3. But with this in mind, I just decided I wanted to go over my very personal wish list of which characters I would like to see in Combat Pack 3. Just know that this is a highly personalised list, and I will only be picking 6 Mortal Kombat characters. I won't really be bringing up guests. This is simply because I'm one of those people who fall in the camp of I just don't really care much about guest characters, except for the ones in X and Spawn, but they're generally awesome and a lot of fun to play. But for the rest, my reaction pretty much ranges from, yeah, pretty cool, might play you, to get on my screen right now, you weak, over-Americanized Superman ripoff, and take your spammy lasers with you. Now eat this Karambit! And with that in mind, let's start off the list with the first character, Jade. Let's be honest, Jade is probably one of the most requested characters to be in the game. And not to mention the fact that she has been mentioned in a few intros. Now, within the intros, it has been revealed that she is now a countess. So I think it could be interesting to see how different she is from having a past from an assassin to now being a countess. And honestly, at this point, it's more surprising that she's not in the game. She is that popular. Now, I don't think she would collide too badly with Tanya's moveset, as she uses a more standard bow staff. Meanwhile, Tanya uses a 3-section bow staff, along with having the boomerangs and shadow abilities. So yeah, Jade has quite a few differences to Tanya. Plus, Tanya's staff is pretty slow to use, and she's more of a defensive character. But either way, really hope she does get into the game. And let's hope this time they make her base skin actually green rather than the brown it was in MK11. Scarlet. Now the next one I have will be coating the screen in blood, and that is Scarlet. To be honest, I think it would be incredibly cool to finally have all the Kunaichis in one game. Along with actually being able to explore a backstory and giving her more of a solid one, as for some odd reason in 11 they decided to give her a new backstory than the one that was in MK9, despite rebooting the series. So I think it would be a lot better to have one that is set in stone in Liu Kang's timeline, whether that be as a successful creation of Shang Tsung. Maybe she even takes up the role of original Melina, meant to usurp Melina or Katana in some way, but the people of Outworld won't know. She will simply hide her face, or she has the same face as the twins, or she could either be a loyal soldier to Shao Kahn without the very weird suggestions that were in MK11.
You attack me, Scarlet?
I will be Shao Kahn's empress.
I do definitely think that with a more solid backstory, they can definitely refine her moveset as well. As in, pretty much both of them are very different. In MK11, she was more of a zoner type. Meanwhile, in 9, she felt more like a rushdown character with the manipulation of blood. So, yeah, with a more solid backstory, I think her moveset could become a lot better and a lot more defined as well. Maybe she could even have powers over one of the Komidogu daggers that appeared in X, finally making them a bit more canon. And next is the character that was finally seen fully on screen in the Chaos Reigns expansion, and that was Harumi Shirai. To be honest, with how much work they've done with her already, a tire model, a voice actress as well, again, she's one of those characters I'm kind of surprised wasn't introduced already as DLC. So yeah, I just think it would be awesome to finally introduce a new character as well into this game, but have it be a character that is already in the lore and has appeared multiple times. And we kind of have a good basis now she could fight with those dual swords she used in the wedding scene, along with what I mentioned in the previous video. If you want to go check that out, you can. I think it would be awesome to finally have Harumi be playable in some capacity in a Mortal Kombat game, not just kind of part of Scorpion's story. Now, a character in a similar boat to Harumi, who I think should be added, is
Project Hydro on.
As he hasn't really been in the main canon of the games, only really appeared in the Malibu comics as the first Aquamancer, then was entirely replaced by Rain, and I think he could also have a pretty important role. Maybe for once we actually have a Lin Kuei member who is in support of the Cyber Initiative. The only one we fully know that supports this initiative is Sector, and in the old timeline he was the Grandmaster's son, so it made sense why he supported. Everyone else seems staunchly against it, so I think Hydra will be good for that reason, and to also show how different the Cyber Initiative is in this timeline. Maybe he still has all his free will, and if he is in the cyber suit, I imagine his moveset would be entirely different to Reigns, as Hydra's moveset could focus more on water pressure, and eventually if you hit them enough time with this water, it will have the capability to freeze the opponent. Again, different enough terrain, but I definitely think that Hydra could be a very important character, and just once again cool to see in a mainline Mortal Kombat game, not just being the canon in the comics and a web series. Bringing in order from the recent chaos left by Havoc, I next have
Hotaru
for this combat pack. One, I think it would be interesting to see the differences between him and Havoc, especially given Havoc's ending, how he feels about him. Obviously not positive at all, and he has been mentioned a few times in intro dialogues. And also, I think it would be good to use Hotaru to see the problems with Order ran through intro dialogue, as we can see them a little bit in the original timeline, but doesn't get brought up in any of the new ones. So I think it could be cool to see, and maybe what made Havoc so radicalized against Order as a concept. And Hotaru does have a pretty interesting design and moveset, so would be cool to see how the devs would kind of update it. And the final character I have is
Kintaro.
This is mainly because he's the only Shokan who hasn't been playable in the NOS games. Shiva has been playable in 2 games, that being 9 and 11, and Goro has been playable in 2 games if you count cameo characters, so therefore he's been playable in MK1 and MKX. And yeah, Kintaro is a pretty interesting character, which I think they could dive more into in terms of moveset, as he uses fire instead of the Dragon Balls and the physical attacks of the other 2. And in terms of lore as well, for instance, in Liu Kang's timeline, Kintaro could be a subspecies of Shokan that has evolved for a different part of our world. Maybe a climate that is significantly colder. Honestly, yeah, it would be fun to actually explore this through someone's design. Maybe in this timeline, Kintaro also has Goro's original backstory, which is the fact he's the prince of his Shokan. Yeah, there is so much they could do with this character. I do also think there is another strong reason for Kintaro being in here, and that is the fact he did, in some capacity, appear in MK11 as one of Shang Tsung's fatalities, and normally they don't put these characters in without making them playable eventually, so hopefully Kintaro can return and be playable in an NRS game. Now, I'm going to be moving on to a handful of cameo characters I would also like to see in the game. And the first one I have is Male Chameleon. Now, I know a lot of people may think that Floyd is seemingly a replacement for Chameleon, but I don't really think Floyd's power when he gets into the game will be mimicking. I think his abilities will be light instead, but I think Chameleon will always be the copycats of the series. Now, like female Chameleon, I think male Chameleon should only be able to use 3 ninjas' abilities as his cameo list. These will be Reptile, Smoke, and Rain. One reason is the fact it covers all 3 original games of the series, and the fact that Sub-Zero, Scorpion, and Tremor are already cameos, and if Sub-Zero and Scorpion were a part of his cameo set, that would mean they're in the game 3 times. We don't need it that many. And the reason why I'm picking Rain and Smoke over Noob Saibot and Ermac is because these 2 are kind of missing some crucial parts of their moveset. For Smoke, it is his Smoke Ball, and for Rain, it is his Lightning Storm and Water Bubble. And I just think Reptile is kind of related to the Chameleon, so it makes sense for them to have the ability of the Force Ball, and it would be good for them to have some combo extensions. Now, for Chameleon's own ability, I think he should have a reverse of female Chameleon's, where she covers you in this glass or mirror effect, and you take half damage. He fires a projectile at the opponent, which covers them in the mirror effect, and they take extra damage to your next attack. It'll be a very good way to differentiate between the 2. Next one is the Texas Cowboy,
Aaron Black.
Now let's be honest, NRS has always kind of a problem with zoners in the game, but I don't think he would be, because he'd be limited due to his cameo bar. And I also think that he would work very similar to Tremor, as he was introduced next, so therefore having some form of variation system. Next up is the Edenian demigod Taven. And this is honestly because he would complete the 3D era game in Mortal Kombat 1, as Armageddon doesn't actually have any characters in Mortal Kombat 1 so far, so I think may as well make it the main protagonist over Blaze or Dagon, and they probably could make something very interesting with between him and Oren. I think those 2 could make some very interesting cameo plays and work very well in his cameo fatality. And the final cameo character I have is Madame Bo. I genuinely think she should be on the playable roster in some capacity, given a lot of people really liked her in the story mode. I think she could be a really fun cameo character and just overall really interesting to play as finally. So yeah, make Madam Bo playable in MK1. And with that, that covers it. Let me know what your Combat Pack 3 looks like in the comment section down below if you want to. And while you're down there, leave a like, and if you want to hear from me again, subscribe. And with that, goodbye.